Hi, all you music fans. It's me, Andy Rodriguez, also known as the Blackspinner. And if you're new to our channel, what I have been doing is that I have been going through my record collection in alphabetical order and in chronological order. Now, I've been collecting records for over 20 years, and we are finishing up the letter D. Last episode, it was a special presentation of just straight Deep Purple. Well, today is another special presentation. Today we're going to be listening to the great Bob Dylan. Well, not listening, but talking about Bob Dylan and the vinyls that I have by Mr. Dylan. Now, I've been going at a pretty good pace making these episodes, and fortunately for me, the Deep Purple one was on Friday and today's Tuesday. I was looking through my Bob Dylans and I said, you know what? I need to take some time and listen to some records that were made in the 70s that I was not that really acquainted with, and I needed to listen. And I had heard them when I first got them, and here and there I had heard them. But since I've gotten older, of course, the taste of music has changed, and I'm so glad I went back to hear them again, because I really enjoyed these past few days of just listening to Bob Dylan records. And like Bob Dylan said on A Hard Rain Is Gonna Fall, I know my song well before I start singing. Well, in my case, I need to know the records well before I start talking. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm glad I did, because my view on him hasn't changed, because I've always thought he was great, but now I think he's greater because of the records that I heard recently, and I will point those out. So let's get started. Where else to start but on his debut album, Bob Dylan. Now, this does have a lot of covers on it, and rightfully so, but it does have several originals, and the originals were Talking New York, and also Peggy O, Highway 51, and also A Song to Woody. Now, Woody Guthrie was always, one of his heroes, and that song was written for him. But I do want to talk about a couple of covers here that I learned were covers that he did. One of them was The House of the Rising Sun, which we all know the Animals did, but he did it pretty good on a guitar, and he had a pretty good arrangement. Also, another album another song that I was very surprised about was In My Time of Dying. We all know that Led Zeppelin did their arrangement of that. Well, Bob Dylan also has a version of In My Time of Dying in the way that Bob Dylan would do on guitar and harmonica. Album number 2 that I have by Bob Dylan on vinyl, and it's a very special one for me because it was the first one that I had bought on vinyl, and it just, wow, that's all I have to say. I always heard about Bob Dylan, but never really sat down and listened to Bob Dylan. I'm talking about this one right here, the Freewheeling Bob Dylan. This is a fantastic album. Might be one of the best albums. Well, I think it's in my top 10 for sure. My own personal top 10. The songs on here that are standouts, I'm going to read quite a few because quite a few are standouts. Blowing in the Wind, Girl from North Country, Masters of War, which Pearl Jam covered. Hard Rain's Gonna Fall, I just mentioned that earlier. Also, Don't Think Twice, It's Alright, that's been covered lots of times, but his is the best version. I really enjoy it. And Bob Dylan's Dream, Talking World War III Blues, and I Shall Be Free. But every song on here is fantastic. I just wanted to pinpoint the highlights, which there are a lot of them. I read almost 6 or 7 songs, and if y'all don't have this, or if you can't find it, please stream it and listen to it. Y'all deserve that. If y'all are on this page, it means y'all love music, so you would love that album. Bob Dylan, And Times They Are A-Changin', which was not just a big hit for him, but a big hit, but not a big hit. But the song was a big a song that meant a lot to our country, the United States of America, at that time with JFK and with the civil rights movement, which a lot of people turned to Bob Dylan lyrics when they needed comfort in a very tough time. Let's go through these songs. Of course, The Times They Are A-Changin', Too Many Mornings, North Country Blues, and Boots of Spanish Leather. Those were the standouts, but really the title track is one of the most important songs in Bob Dylan's canon. Next album here. Now, these first three albums were strictly guitar and harmonica, but there are a little bit of piano on this one here, another side of Bob Dylan. And of the three, this one's my favorite right here. No, wait a minute. You see what I'm talking about? Of the four, Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, this is my second album in this period of guitar harmonica. The songs on here, All I Really Want to Do, Chimes of Freedom, I Shall Be Free, number 10, which is a pretty funny song. But side two is the meat and the potatoes of this. Motorcycle Nightmare, which can be used as a when you hear it, it'll remind you of the movie Psycho. And actually, he also throws in Anthony Perkins in there, who played Norman Bates. He name drops his name there. My Back Pages, I Don't Believe in You. Ballad in Plain D, which tells the story of a young girl of a woman that he loves, and how her home life is a wreck between the mom and her other sister, and how much he was trying to take her away from that situation, and how she chose her family over him. It's just a great story. And still, one more song to end this. It Ain't Me, Babe, ends this album. The last song on side 2 is It Ain't Me, Babe. It ain't me you're looking for, babe. And there was a big change in his music. He plugs in for side 1 of this whole album. And I need to thank my Uncle Rene, because this was his and he gave it to me, probably because he got tired of hearing me beg him. Bringing It All Back Home by Bob Dylan. This is fantastic. Look at the album cover, a little different. There's a Time magazine in here with a cover of Lyndon B. Johnson in a big time of turmoil. The Vietnam War was just kicking in. We had lost JFK. He and LBJ was doing so many different things for the country as well. Let me read these off to you. Side 1, like I said, is electric. Not just for the sound of it, but also the songs are electric. Subterranean, Homesick Blues, She Belongs to Me, Maggie's Farm, I Ain't Gonna Work on Maggie's Farm No More. Love Minus Zero, On the Road Again, Bob Dylan's 115th Dream. And then side 2, he flips it again. Acoustic. Starts off with Mr. Tambourine Man, which the Byrds do a cover of it, but the Byrds sure do leave off about 3 additional verses. So this says, Mr. Tambourine Man, It's Alright Ma, I'm Only Bleeding. I love that song. And also, this ends with It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. This, I mean, I can't talk enough about Bob Dylan. This is such a great album, and I'm going to be saying that over and over. I'm going to be saying that for the next 4 or 5. Let's just say the next great album, Bob Dylan, Highway 61 Revisited. This is just, again, it's going to be side 2. That's going to be the most important side, even though this does kick off with Like a Rolling Stone, which is always in the top 10 list of greatest rock songs ever made. This is Like a Rolling Stone, Tombstone Blues, and then Ballad of a Thin Man, Mr. Jones. Love it. And side 2, Queen J, Approximately. Also, Highway 61 revisited, where God is actually having a conversation with Abraham, and it's pretty intense. And just like Tom Thumb's Blues and Desolation Row, it ends so bleak. But just like Tom Thumb's Blues is a song, it's just so, it feels like it's a celebration of despair. It's just weird. And talk about a celebration. After that one, Bob Dylan comes out with the very first double album ever made in rock history. I'm talking about Blonde on Blonde. Let's do this. Look at that. That's pretty cool. And I have heard that Jimi Hendrix was inspired to do his hair like Bob Dylan off of this album. That's why Jimi Hendrix had his hair the way that it is, because he wanted to copy Bob Dylan. Because not only was Jimi Hendrix, I'll get to Jimmy when I get to the H's, but not only was he one of the greatest guitar players, but he was a fantastic lyricist. I know that he does some covers, but his songs that he wrote, his lyrics were so great because he wanted to be the next Bob Dylan. And that's, double album, so I'm going to read off a lot of songs on here. So let's get started. Rainy Day Woman, 12 and 35. To me, that's a celebrated song on this album, and for me, it's just okay. At first, it was just okay, but now that I'm older and I realize that it's not just talking about getting stoned, it's talking about protesting and fighting for what's right. And you're going to get stoned, you're going to get rocks thrown at you, but you know what? Go out there and protest for what you believe in. Fantastic song. Visions of Johanna are all on my mind. Pledging My Time, One Must Know, I Want You, Memphis Blues Again. And this might be my favorite song on here. Oh, well, no, Now I See Just Like a Woman. Love that song. But Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat. And Most Likely You Go Your Way, I Go Mine, Temporarily Like Achilles, Absolutely Sweet Marie. And it ends with Sad Eyes, Lady of the Lowlands. And that takes up all of side 4. Just that one poetic long song. So yeah, Blonde on Blonde. Sometimes this is my favorite. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this about my favorite Bob Dylan's albums. I've already said that about 4 times, 4 different ones. But yeah, Blonde on Blonde. Go ahead and stream it if you don't have it, and I'm going to guarantee you're going to enjoy it. And if you don't want to invest so much time in these Bob Dylans, here, but you should. You should. Here you go, Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits. This is one of the best greatest hits, of course. Songs on here: Rainy Day Woman, Blowing in the Wind, The Times Are Changing, It Ain't Me, Babe, and Like a Rolling Stone. But also, there's a song on here that is not an LP track. And that song is going to be Positively 4th Street, which is positively one of my favorite songs by Bob Dylan. And I'm pretty sure there's other compilations, but it made its first appearance on his greatest hits. And this is, if you want to get started somewhere, this is a fantastic place to start. It's fantastic. And move and work your way back. And after that, Bob Dylan had taken a couple of years off, and that was very odd for him because he was cranking them out. Well, when he came back out with John Wesley Harding. This is a complete departure from everything he was doing. This was more of a country rock, laid-back album. And the best side on this album is going to be side 1. Side 1 with John Wesley Harding. Was a friend to the end. And as I went out one morning, it's just okay. But I dreamed I saw St. Augustine. A beautiful song. And also, I was just talking about Jimi Hendrix. The original version of All Along the Watchtower is on here. Now, when I first heard Jimmy's, was the first one I heard, Loved it. I heard this one and then I compared them, which is wrong to do, is to compare two songs that are completely different artists, because I have come to love both all along the Watchtower by both Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix. And the best track on this song, it's not that one, it's the ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest, about a man named Frankie Lee who makes a deal with the devil, and then he has to pay the devil back, and he loses his life because of it. And then side 2, it's a little bit more iffy, but I do like I Pity the Poor Immigrant and Down Along the Cove on side 2. But it's because side 1 is just so much on there. And on this next album, he really gets down into that country flavor sound. Nashville Skyline. This is the, I don't want to say the beginning of country rock, because the Byrds were already doing that. The Flying Burrito Brothers were doing that. But this, in my opinion, is the best example of it. This has, again, the same song, North Country, Girl from North Country, which was on the second album, The Freewheelin'. But this has Johnny Cash doing a duet. And also, speaking of Johnny Cash also rides the Ford on this album. And Nashville Skyline, Rag, To Be Alone With You, I Threw It All Away. And then side 2 is the classic song on here is Lay Lady Lay. That is the hit song that will save the hit song off this album. Tonight I'll be staying here with you. Finishes this. The next album that I have Bob Dylan, now we're getting into 1970, which was a different period for him. He goes to different styles and he really does it well. That's what I've learned the past 3 or 4 days, that he does it really well. Let's start off with Self Portrait. Double album. And we've all heard from critics when this came out, this was the worst album he ever made. This was just this was just panned and just hated. And so I listened to that. And I didn't hear this album that much when I first got it. I wanted so I could have it part of my collection. Well, this weekend I dove into this and I absolutely loved it. And I went to other comments by fans, not critics, by fans, and they too love this album. And like I said, this is a double album. There's the inside of it. It's nicely packaged. And the songs on here, All the Tired Horses. Now, you're going to hear a lot of different sounds. You're going to hear a lot of different backing vocals, a little bit of gospel here and there, which is just fine with me. Also, another one, Days of 49, which talks about the miners of 1840, the gold miners of 1849, Early Morning Rain, Let It Be Me, Little Sadie, Living the Blues, and a live version of Like a Rolling Stone is on here. Covers of The Boxer, which was a Simon and Garfunkel. And, you know, a lot of critics said, oh, well, he did that to make fun of Paul Simon. I don't think so. In my opinion, and the way that we know how Bob Dylan is now, he respected his peers. He never thought he was above anyone else. Critics would put Bob Dylan above anyone else, but as we know, as Bob has kept pushing throughout the years, he is more grounded. The Mighty Quinn, side 4, Take a Message to Mary, and also, side 3, Take Me As I Am, is a great, great, heartbreaking country ballad. And that's where I stop saying the songs that jump out at me. But please, owe it to yourself. Don't listen to the critics. Go ahead and hear this, stream it. And also, there's a bootleg series that I have heard from other people on YouTube on their channel saying, you know, that the bootleg series is better. So I'm going to stream that myself and check it out because I was very impressed with this alone. And next came this one here, New Morning by Bob Dylan. This also has a country flavor to it. This one, If Not For You, which is also covered by George Harrison. George Harrison's great album, which I will talk about when we get to the H's. We've got a lot more to talk about. Day of the Locusts, which the background, I don't know if it's just sound effects, but it's like locusts in the background, which I love that noise at night, and it's a nice background to this Winterlude and If Dogs Run Free. But again, the best side on here is going to be side 2. Side 2 is the best side. New Morning, Three Angels, The Man in Me, and One More Weekend, and Sign on the Window. Well, I just said everything on side 2. I just heard this recently for the first time in a long time. At first, I was like, that's not my cup of tea. This is my cup of tea. I'm really glad that I've been taking that time to hear it. And what we have next is Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits Volume 2. We talked about Volume 1, about being a great way to start and move back. Whenever you find this, there's The Gatefold, and it is a double album. It's a double album of his greatest hits, and not mainly greatest hits, but they will be important album tracks from all his albums, from his first album, the self-titled Bob Dylan, to New Morning. And let's go through these. Watching the River Flow, Don't Think Twice, It's Alright, Lay Lady Lay, Stuck Inside a Mobile with the Memphis Blues Again, I'll Be Your Baby Tonight, My Back Pages, and it goes on and on. I mean, go ahead and look this up. Fantastic. And what we're going to have next is a very light-hearted album. It's more of an acoustic. No, not acoustic. I'm sorry. Pardon me. But I beg your pardon. But it's more of an instrumental to a movie soundtrack that he also appears in, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. Now, this album here, it does have a couple of songs that do have vocals. Most notably, Knocking on Heaven's Door is on here, which is one of his most beloved songs. And then another song which wraps up the album. There's the back of it right there. That's Chris Christopherson, who was the main part in the movie. And what we have next is, if y'all have been following my channel, letter B as in boy, I talk a lot about the band, which is a band that I really admire and that I really like. Well, like I said before, that they started off as being one of Bob Dylan's backing bands in the mid-60s. Well, they get back together and they make an album called Planet Waves. This is Bob Dylan with the band being his backing band, and it's okay. I was hoping it would be better, but it's okay. It's nice to listen to on a night like this. Tough Mama. There's two versions of Forever Young. There's a slow version that ends side 1, and the rollicking version on side 2, which is the one that we're more used to and the one that I prefer as well. You Angel You and Wedding Song, pretty good. But I just wish that this was a little bit better. But Bob Dylan and the band will bounce back. I believe that this was Bob Dylan's first foray into a live album, and he does it in style with the band. Before the Flood, Open It Up, Gatefolds of the Guys. So this is Bob Dylan with the band. And if you're not too familiar with the band, and if you just want to do their greatest hits, all of their big hits are here with Bob Dylan being a sideman. But the songs on here are just top notch by both artists. Most likely You'll Go Your Way, I'll Go Mine, Lay Lady Lay, Knock on Heaven's Door. If you don't want to sit through Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, go ahead and Knock on Heaven's Door has a better version on here with the band. It Ain't Me, Babe, Ballad of a Thin Man. And these versions are a little bit more rockin' and a little bit more faster than what we're used to hearing. And then on side 2 belongs to the band. They do Up on Cripple Creek, I Shall Be Released, Stage Fright, the night they drove Dixie down. And then side 4 goes back to Bob Dylan, Highway 61, All Along the Watchtower, Blowing the Wind, and Like a Rolling Stone. This is worth your time. This is a great live album. I'm a sucker for live albums, and especially if they throw a double live album out at me, I'm a real sucker for that, and I love it. It's not being a sucker, it's really enjoying what they're giving you. And next we have a strong album by Bob Dylan where he's talking a little bit about his pending divorce to his wife Sarah, the mother to his 4 children, and they'd been married since I believe '66, and things were getting rough for them. Talking about Blood on the Tracks. And the songs on here are they're so personal. Tangled Up in Blue, Simple Twist of Fate, Idiot Win, You're Gonna Make Me Lonesome When You Go. That's side 1. But the big songs are on side 2. I love Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts. That is just a long, winding story, and it's fantastic. Shelter from the Storm and Buckets of Rain. And if you see her, say hello. This is really good, and I really enjoyed it. Next was another double album by Bob Dylan and the band. It's the Bootlegs. That was taken from '67 during that period where Bob Dylan had kept himself for a while, and these guys got together. This was before the music from the Big Pink. It's a double live. It's a double album. There's the inside of it, and I've always read what a great album this is. To me, it's just okay. That's what I don't like about some compilations, odds and sods. I'm going to the Who, but like not throwing a complete album together and just putting it together of different recordings from different times. I really don't like it because there's no theme to it. Nothing gels, and that's the problem with me on this one. I'll probably give it another go. I will give it another go. And if I find it different, I'll let you guys know. Next album that I have by Bob Dylan is going to be Desire. This album is utterly fantastic as well. And let's start with side 1, which is Hurricane, which tells the story of I think he was a world champion heavyweight boxing winner, world champion, or he was about to be the world champion, and he was framed for murder, and this is actually a true story, and he did some time in prison, and I think he got out because they found out he was innocent. Well, the song Hurricane that this starts off with tells his story. Another good song is Isis and Mozambique, Oh Sister, and One More Cup of Coffee. And when I was listening to this, I went back to it this past weekend, and I was thinking, man, who is that female vocal? Well, I went back and I read it, and it was a young Emmylou Harris, and she is prominent throughout as the backing vocal. And this album would have been just okay if it wasn't for her backing vocals, which made it phenomenal. Romance in Durango is a really good song, which has the chorus is sang in Spanish by Bob and by Emmylou Harris, and the music sounds like there's a mariachi band playing, and it tells the story of Mexico and whatever the song was about going on down there. And Sarah, it ends with Sarah, a song dedicated to his future ex-wife. And what we have next is another live album, Hard Rain. This was a live album done with the, what was their names? The rock. It's something Rock and Review. But what was a big news about this was that Mick Ronson plays lead guitar on here, and Mick Ronson, of course, from David Bowie in the Spider from Mars. And there's also a fantastic there is a fantastic documentary on Netflix about this period of time for Bob. You know, this tour had a circus theme, a carnival theme, and it was just so much fun for them to make. And the songs on here that are live: You're a Big Girl Now, Lay Lady Lay, which is going to have alternate lyrics, Shelter from the Storm. And these songs are going to be a little bit raggedy than what you're used to. That's what this band that he had put together was known for. I Threw It All Away and Idiot Win. And Stuck Inside of Memphis Blues Again. And there's no inside cover. And next that I have for Bob, this was the next album that I have for him. Street Legal, which he started to turn, the music was just okay. It started to get a little bit too poppy for my taste, when if it wasn't, you know. But let's see here. Changes of the Guards was great. No Time to Think. And Baby Stop Crying. I like that song, Baby Stop Crying. And also Senor, Tales of Yankee Power. And Where Are You Tonight? Journey Through Dark Heat. And this album was okay. And soon after that, Bob Dylan was converting from Judaism to Christianity. And he made 3 albums during that period. They were pretty much Christian albums. And I don't have a couple of them, but one I do have is Saved. And this is a really good album. I really enjoyed it. It's like a gospel album and talks about his conversion to Christianity. And, you know, when it comes to singer-songwriters or songwriters, they talk personal about what's going on in their lives. And that's what makes a great songwriter. And we'll talk more about that when we get to other songwriters, that their subject can change at any moment because they're talking about what's going on with them. So this was very brave to make an album like this, especially for someone with a big name like him, to turn out a couple of Christian-based albums. The songs on here is Saved, Covenant Woman, Solid Rock, and In the Garden, and Saving Grace, and Are You Ready? This is a really good album. I really enjoyed it. There's a little bit of pictures in the inside, paper sleeve. And the last album that I have by Bob Dylan is this one right here, Empire Burlesque. This might have been, 83, I believe. Oh, I think it's 80. Looks like 86. Can't be that late. Nope, I don't see anything else here that might... No, 85. 85, 86. But this says 85. This looks like it says 86. This album, you know, it's just okay. I really didn't really enjoy it that much. There wasn't that many songs to really talk about on here. Maybe Tight Connection to My Heart. And Never Gonna Be the Same. But that's kind of pushing it for me. Well, guys, that wraps it up for my Bob Dylan version. For my Bob Dylan episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it. And please subscribe to my channel and also leave a comment. And we'll see you next time. Keep on rocking. And the next episode, it looks like I'm going to be able to combine the letters E and F together into one episode. So we're going to be talking about the Eagles. We're going to be talking about Emerson, Lake and Palmer. We're going to be talking about some Foo Fighters and also Foreigner. So please join us again in the next episode of The Blackspinner Presents. Y'all take care of each other and keep rocking.